Okay, Merrick, it's your live.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Perth East Council, this 20th day of September. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and would everyone could please bow their head for a moment of reflection. Thank you. If you have pecuniary interest, you can disclose it now or as the meeting goes along. We do have some consent items on our agenda. We have 9 items. Is there anything anyone has questions about or would like pulled?
Sorry, Mayor, I guess we just need the motion to confirm the agenda with the addition.
Oh, right. I'm just bouncing right along here, aren't I? Sorry. Okay, so that the following items be added to the agenda, number 8.3.1, 2022-2026 Joint Compliance Audit Committee, and the agenda as prepared for the September 2022 meeting of Council of the Township of Perth East be approved as amended. So we need a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Andrew, second by Hugh. Any more comments or questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, sorry about that. Now, if anyone has pecuniary interest, you can disclose that now or as the meeting goes along. Consent agenda, we have 9 items under our consent agenda. Is there anything anyone would like pulled or they have questions about? No? Okay. So then we have a motion that items 5.1.1 to 5.1.9 is set out on the consent agenda for September 20th, September 20th, 2022 regular meeting of council be received for information. And the minutes of September 8, 2022 regular council meeting be adopted. So we have a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Jeremy, second by Amanda. All those in favor? Carried. Someone is persistent to get a hold of me. Anyway, we do not have any delegations. We do have a public meeting. So I declare this virtual public meeting to be open. This virtual public meeting is being held to consider a proposed zoning bylaw amendment affecting property currently owned by Joseph and Adina Bauman, Concession 7, East Half, Lot 11, Les Highway, Mornington Ward, 4348, Perth Line 72. This virtual meeting is an opportunity for the township to advise the public of the purpose and intent of the amendment and receive their input prior to considering adoption of an implementing bylaw. If a bylaw is adopted to implement the zoning amendment, a notice of passing will be forwarded by prepaid first-class mail to various agencies of interest and others who have requested notice. An appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal objecting to the adoption of the bylaw may be filed with the clerk not later than the date stated on the notice. Any person attending this meeting who wishes to receive written notice of a bylaw passed to implement the amendment is asked to give their name and mailing address to the clerk following this meeting. No written notice, except as previously noted, will be given unless requested by email following the meeting. Due to COVID-19, public meeting procedures have been adjusted to adhere to provincial guidelines for holding electronic meetings. Any person who wished to be heard regarding this matter was asked to register prior to this meeting by the deadline of Monday, September 19, 2022 at 12 noon with the municipal clerk. I will now call on Planner Pooney to present the planning report and recommendations. Pooney, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mayor Icketts and council members. With your permission, I will share my screen again. All right, so as you mentioned, this is an application, a public meeting for an application for rezoning bylaw amendment for Mr. and Mrs. Bowman. The subject property is located on road on line 72, just west of road 124, and it's approximately 40 hectares in size. It has a frontage of approximately 305 meters along Perth line 72. So really, essentially, they are proposing They currently have a manufacturing operation on that site. As you can see here, this is the shop, and there's a better picture of the whole area. This is the house, this is the shop, and this is a shed that they currently have on that property. And there's also a storage area that I'm locating here. So they already have a manufacturing shop here. The area is currently gonna go to the is 375 square meters, and they are proposing a enlargement of 929 square meters of the building itself. They're also proposing to enlarge the site itself for the CNC machining to 929 square meters. And they are also recommending a increase in full-time employees from 2 full-time employees to 5. So what they're doing is that really the CNC machining is they are making through these like computerized machines. They will manufacture small pieces of machinery that will be used in like agricultural activities. They are selling it to the farmers close to their area, and they have a local market for that. In terms of planning considerations, the provincial policy statement allows, so this is under the official plan, this is a agricultural designation. Under the zoning bylaw, it's agricultural zone. The provincial policy statement allows for the use of agriculturally related activities on these prime agricultural lands. And they have a description for a use that is a on-farm diversified use, and I'm sure you're familiar with it. I'll just go over the calculation that they have for such uses. So they cover this type of business as well as manufacturing, anything that adds goods to the agricultural activities of the area. So they allow for 2% of the total lot area, and it's 40 hectares. So they allow for 2% of the total lot area to a maximum of 1 hectare to be allocated for on-farm diversified use, and which will make it to 8,093 square meters, and that will encompass all the buildings that are associated with on-farm diversified use. And as for so that's the whole area, and 20% of that 2%, so 20% of that 8,000 can be allocated for the building, total building areas, which will be permitted 1,618 square meters. So now what are these applicants requesting is lower than that, lower than the maximum for both of them. They are proposing 929 square meters of total floor area for this use and 3,898 square meters. However, the zoning bylaw allows currently for a 375 square meters for the total floor area. And as for the site area, it allows for 2,000 square meters. So that's for the calculation for the building area and the site related for storage that they will require. And currently they can only have 2 full-time off-farm employees, which they're again requesting for 5 instead of that. So the purpose of this public meeting is really to have the opinion of the public about this expansion, and they're proposing to rebuild really that area. It was a shed that they used to have this operation, and they want to dismantle it and have a new building, which will comply with the site plan control application, site plan application guidelines of the Perth East, Township of Perth East. As for the public engagement, notice of public meeting was posted on August 31st, and since then, no correspondence has been received. Different agencies have been notified, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. No one registered to make a presentation or speak in opposition of the application. No one registered to make a presentation or speak in support of the application other than the applicant or the applicant's agent. The applicant or the applicant's agent did not register to make a presentation or speak with respect to the application, but Mr. Solomon Martin is available to answer any questions that council may have. Are there any questions from members of council? No questions? Okay, council will consider a resolution regarding the planning report recommendation following the conclusion of the virtual public meeting. Bylaw number 209-2022 to implement the approval of the zoning application will be considered at a later date. The virtual public meeting is now concluded and will continue with the regular meeting of council. So we do have a motion. And the motion is that the Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report dated September 2022, prepared by the planner entitled Zoning Bylaw Amendment number D14-Z09-2022-PE, submitted by Solomon Martin on behalf of Joseph and Adina Bauman, affecting lands described as Lot 11, Concession 7, Mornington Ward, Township of Perth East, 4348, line 72, Newton, for information, and that council held a statutory public meeting pursuant to section 34 of the Planning Act with respect to the zoning bylaw amendment D14-Z09-2022-PE, and that council directs staff to prepare a final recommendation report for the zoning bylaw amendment for council's consideration. We have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Amanda, second by Jeremy. Is there any more comments or questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, so we do not have any public hearings. Under reports, our first planning report is the official plan amendment number 210 by Joseph and Adina Bauman. And Puni, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Igetz. With your permission, I will share my presentation. All right, so this is the application for official plan amendment 210, which goes hand in hand with the zoning bylaw amendment application that was previously discussed. I mentioned where the land is located and what they're trying to achieve here. It's an designated agricultural under the official plan. And it is the main use is agricultural, and this on farm diversified use has been proposed that has been currently going on, and they want to, as I mentioned, dismantle the current building and have a new manufacturing shop there. And the purpose is to provide pieces of machinery using CNC machining for farmers close by to their site to use in their agricultural activities. And they are proposing, currently official plan of Perth County allows for 375 square meters for the total building area, and two full-time off-farm employees, and they're requesting for five full-time employees and 929 square meters. I went over the calculations that's what is permitted under the provincial policy statement, which is the governing body across Ontario as to what is allowed. This planning deems this application appropriate in terms of in conformity with the official plan, with the provincial policy statement, Planning Act, and zoning bylaw of Perth County, Township of Perth East, and recommends that Township of Perth East endorses this application and forward it to the Perth County Council for endorsement. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from members of council? No, seeing no questions, we have a motion that the Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report dated September 20th, 2022, prepared by the planner entitled Official Plan Amendment number 210, affecting lands owned by Joseph and Adina Bauman, described as as Lot 11, Concession 7, Mornington Ward, Township of Perth East, 4348, line 72, Newton, for information, and that council endorses Official Plan Amendment 210 to the County of Perth Official Plan pertaining to the lands at Lot 11, Concession 7, Mornington Ward, 4348, line 72, Newton, and that the clerk be directed to forward council's endorsement of OPA 210 to the County of Perth. We have a mover and a seconder, moved by Jerry, second by Andrew. Is there any more comments or questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, next.
Mayor,
item.
Mayor, it's Mike. I just wanted to follow, if it's okay with you, to follow up with
Sure.
Pune as it relates to next steps, as it relates to the application, just for clarification for the applicant and for me. I'm still getting my head wrapped around county planning processes here are slightly different. So Pune, if you could just walk us through what happens next. The recommendation goes to county as it relates to the official plan amendment. Then assuming that is approved at county, the zoning bylaw will come back to this council for approval.
Yes, that is exactly correct. On October 6th, it will be presented, the OPA will be presented at the county council. And same with the zoning bylaw amendment, the recommendation will be brought to the Perth East Township as well.
And assuming both official plan amendment and the zoning bylaw amendment are approved by the respective councils, the applicant would then file for site plan approval.
Yes. That is
Thank you.
correct. Yes.
Sorry about that, Mayor. I just wanted to make sure I was up to speed on the process.
No, that's fine. That's good. We all got a refresher on the process, so that's good. Okay, so now we will move on to our next item in planning. It's a draft plan of subdivision for Perkon Developments Incorporated, and Melissa, she's delivered the report. So Melissa, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Let me just share my screen. Does everyone see this?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So this is an application for draft plan of subdivision by Perkon Development, Inc. The subject property is located at the corner of line 61 and Perth Road 131 south of Milverton in the Mornington Ward of the Township of Perth East. Perkon Development is proposing to develop a portion of the subject property for an industrial subdivision. Oh, my mouse is jumpy tonight. So the developer has made an applications for an official plan amendment, OPA 197. So a bit of a background here, OPA 197 and a plan of subdivision on March 21st, 2021, in conjunction with a proposal to redevelop 35 hectares or approximately 1/2 of the agricultural lands into industrial subdivision. The planning department reviewed the applications for completeness and at the time identified a number of studies that would be required to consider the applications complete. Following this, the developer advised the township that by letter dated June 15th, 2021, that they were seeking the support of Perth East Council for Minister Zoning Order. And Perth East Council supported this application at their June 22nd meeting. Council then forwarded the resolution to Perth County Council. On November 23rd, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing made the MZO, which is called Ontario Regulation 783-21, and the regulation was filed with the Office of the Registrar of Regulations on November 24th, 2021. So the total area of the property is 74.45 hectares, and the area proposed to be for the subdivision is 35 hectares. The proposed schematic draft plan of subdivision includes 6 lots, which are 5.6 hectares, and blocks, which are 21.237 hectares, totaling just over 26 hectares. The remainder of the lands are roads, stormwater management, reserves, land reserves, and a woodlot. The remnant farm parcel is proposed to be 39.85 hectares. The subject lands have a frontage of approximately 546 meters along line 61 to the north and split frontage along Perth Road 131 of approximately 289 meters plus 127 meters and the depth of approximately 589 meters to the south. The subject lands are bisected by the McCloy branch drain. The subject land is currently contains a house and 2 agricultural related buildings. Currently, access to the house is located on Perth Road 131. The subject lands are flat with a woodlot located at the northeast corner. The woodlot contains a wetland that has been identified by the Conservation Authority. Surrounding land uses include agricultural uses and a vacant special policy area across the road. The area in between the settlement area of Milverton and a proposed subdivision along Road 131 contains a mixture of single-family dwelling, smaller industrial developments, remnant agricultural lots, and at the opposite corner is Growmark, an agri-commercial use. Minister zoning or order information. The MZO rezones the land essentially to industrial zone M1, but there's a site-specific zone in place, which is M135, as shown on the map. And I will follow up with the slide, like the next slide will show the mapping. The rezoning permits the uses identified in the zoning bylaw, which the uses under M1 zone, which is the industrial zone of the Perth East zoning bylaw. Uses identified within the agricultural commercial zone of the Perth East zoning bylaw, an animal clinic, a farm equipment establishment, a farm supply outlet, and a stormwater management facility. The Perkon lands MZO changes land uses on the subject property from agricultural to employment and industrial uses while preserving existing natural woodlot at the northeast corner of the property, and at the same time provides additional protection through the introduction of the adjacent land zone next to the said woodlot and along the drainage creek that runs through the property. The aim of the MZO was to expedite planning approvals and the creation of employment and industrial lands near Milverton. So this is a map of the MZO. The area of the site at the northeast, like I said, will remain natural resource environment zone 2. And the MZO also rezones the land adjacent to NRE2 as well as along the drain to adjacent land zone to prohibit any building or structure except as permitted within the adjacent land overlay under Perth East zoning bylaw, which is also regulated. So this overlay is actually regulated through the Conservation Authorities Act and more specifically by Maitland Valley Conservation Authority. So, and the remainder, as shown on this map, will be developed, turned into industrial and commercial uses. So I just wanted to point out briefly, I'm not going to go through all the uses that are permitted, but essentially on the left, you have what's permitted under M1, pretty much all the, industrial uses, which are primarily involved in manufacturing, assembling, processing, constructing, printing, preparing, finishing, treating, so on and so forth, building supply outlet, contractor's yard, a fire hall, laboratory, so on and so forth. And on the ag-commercial side, we have, farm-related buildings, livestock facilities, or associated facilities, farm produce sales outlet, animal clinic. So like I said, a variety of commercial and manufacturing uses. So due to virtue of this of the decision, MZO decision being rendered by the minister, the lands are being deemed as employment area for the purposes of the PPS. The proposed draft plan of subdivision is being reviewed in the light of this MZO, as decisions concerning applications for the draft plan of subdivision are required to be consistent with a provincial policy statement. With regards to employment, PPS section 131, and that's what you have on the slide there, states as planning authorities shall promote economic development and competitiveness, as indicated on the slide. And I have just highlighted the most important like principles, mix and range of employments, diversified economic base, facilitating the conditions for economic investment, encouraging compact and mixed use industrial developments, and making sure that the infrastructure is in place to support the subdivision. So this particular plan of subdivision provides a variety of lots and blocks in various shapes and sizes, ranging for 0.45 hectares to 5.47 hectares, with the intention of creating opportunities for a range of businesses to locate in the subdivision. The draft plan of subdivision aims to expand Milverton's economic base and provide for a market-ready site at a strategic location that fronts a county road, in this case, Road 131. The plan is quite compact. It provides for 20 blocks on just over 21 hectares, and for 6 lots on 5.6 hectares. The smaller lots are located along the cul-de-sac on the northwest end. As a decision of a minister of the Crown, the MZO must be consistent with the PPS. However, there's no statutory requirement for an MZO to conform to an official plan with respect to the land subject to the order. This is unlike the Planning Act requirement that says that all zoning bylaws must conform with the official plan. So the plan of subdivision is being proposed, but the lands will remain designated agricultural. So here's the layout, revised layout with some modifications as we have moved from the original to this version. In the upper right-hand corner, you see the blocks and lots and what the allocations are for. The applicant is seeking to develop the draft plan of subdivision with the overall development. As I said earlier, having a total of 6 lots and 20 blocks. Lots 1 to 6 are employment lots, and as are blocks 1 to 20. Block 11 in the northeast corner is a woodlot. Block 12, kind of in the middle to the west, is a store for stormwater management. Blocks 13 and 14 are temporary turning circles. Blocks 15 to 19 are land reserves along the roads and at the cul-de-sac. And block 20 is a reservoir, like a future reservoir. All proposed street names would be subject to the satisfaction. This will be determined later through the subdivision agreement, and the names will be to the satisfaction of the township. So I'm just going to go briefly in terms of our evaluation of the proposed draft plan of subdivision. Section 16.2.2 of the county OP contains policies that are applied when dealing with proposals to divide or create land through the plan of subdivision process. The policies of section 16.2.2 are and associated comments addressing the policy requirements. So I'm just going to go and address them briefly, but these are the main criteria that each subdivision has to be evaluated against. So the planning department, first and foremost, the planning department is satisfied that the appropriate process is being applied to consider the development proposal. The draft plan is comprised of, which in this case is a plan of subdivision. We believe that because they're creating new public right-of-ways, we believe that this is a proper process rather than just simple severances. The draft plan is comprised of 3 new streets and a number of blocks and lots. As I said earlier, stormwater block and a subdivision Reservoir. The developer will be providing all new services, road, sanitary, water, and storm discharge to the subdivision. In terms of making sure that this application is not premature and that there's availability and capacity of services, due to the virtue of the MZO, the land is being considered as an employment area, approved by the minister, and the question of prematurity is thus mute. The applicant is provided a functional servicing and stormwater management report by K Smart Associates, limited, and the report states that sufficient provisioning is or will be made available. In terms of, so we have to, in terms of landlocking any future lands that are abutting the subdivision, the remainder of the subject land that is being subdivided has frontage on Perth Road 131, and also the proposed plan of subdivision provides for future access from the subdivision to the remaining lands to the south through the new subdivision street. And the street that provides the access will be developed as a temporary cul-de-sac, thus allowing for future connection to the remaining lands. In terms of provincial policy and official plan conformity, the proposed plan of subdivision is consistent with the PPS, and the proposed subdivision conforms to the County of Perth official plan due to the MZO, which essentially set the uses or changes the use rather to employment lands. In terms of making sure that the subdivision is consistent and compatible with the with land uses in the immediate vicinity, I highlighted in the report that the closest distance between the proposed industrial subdivision and the nearby residential use, which is at the southeast corner of Perth Road 131 and line 61, is approximately 180 meters. This means that for class 1 and class 2 industrial uses, the recommended minimums have already been provided. The area of influence for class 2, excuse me, if proposed in the future in proximity to residential, will be addressed at the site plan stage. And for class 3, the recommended minimum will be respected, and also potential influence area should be studied if such facility is proposed at the site plan stage. In terms of MDS compatibility, due to the virtue of the MZO decision, MDS1 in this case, in the case of the subdivision, is considered a settled matter. Any future livestock expansion proposed in the vicinity of the subdivision will have to satisfy MDS2 requirements. The two nearby barns, one on the east across Road 131, and the farm property directly to the west, are separated approximately 534 meters and 269 meters from the subdivision boundaries, respectively. I just want to highlight that in 2017, the owner of the abutting farm to the west obtained a minor variance approval to reduce the required MDS setback from 204 meters down to 104 meters to the nearby sensitive land use, which is the Perth East municipal use at just across the road from the barn, basically. So thus any future livestock expansion of the neighboring barn to the west will be limited by the sensitive land use directly to the north and across the road from them, rather than the new subdivision to the east. The proposed in terms of frontage, as the subdivision will have frontage on the public road on both line 61 and 131, road 131. In terms of making sure that there will be any adverse impacts in terms of both to the municipality and to the natural heritage features. The proposal is not anticipated to have any adverse effects on public utilities, facilities, utilities, or services. And I have attached the AIS that the proponent has submitted in conjunction with this subdivision application. I concluded the study concluded there are significant habitats and a woodlot that require protection. A condition of the draft plan approval has been provided such that the applicant enters into a subdivision agreement with the Township of Perth East, and that adequate protection measures, as highlighted in the report, will be addressed. The developer will be required to provide a 15-meter undisturbed buffer, vegetated buffer along the woodlot as well as along the drain. I indicated in my report that this adjacent layer encroaches on the reservoir. However, this has already been resolved with the developer, and I'm showing that on the slide here. The vegetated buffer will not interfere with the proposed reservoir at all, like engineering has already been submitted, as you can see on the screen here. The proposed, in terms of water supply and sewage disposal, the applicant has provided a functional servicing and stormwater management report by K-Smart that outlines the proposed methods of water supply and sewage disposal. And the report concludes the development of the proposed subdivision is achievable with full municipal servicing for water supply and sewage disposal as per municipal standards. So in terms of, and I just want to say one more thing, I already talked about the stormwater and servicing report. A transport study was additionally submitted in conjunction with this proposal to understand the transportation context and infrastructure required. And the study concluded that turn lanes from both Perth Road 131 and line 61 to the new road will not be needed or warranted. And also, planning is recommending that the council of the Township of Perth East endorses this subdivision. And this concludes my presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Melissa. We also have, with council's permission, we also have Mr. Rupp with us tonight, and Mr. Jefferson, and he is the Perkon, the planner. So with your permission, I know he's not on the agenda. He didn't appear as a delegation, but with your permission, if he has anything to add, we can let him add his comment. And then if you have questions, they're here to answer some of the questions as well. So would that be all right with council if we let Mr. Jefferson speak? Carol? Yeah, okay. All right. Good evening, Mr. Jefferson. Are you with us tonight?
Yes, I am, Mayor Eggetts. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you to Ms. Gassick for her presentation. It's a good overview of what has happened in the past year with this file. Just for council's information, a considerable amount of time has been spent resolving the site servicing issues and specifically providing water supply for firefighting purposes. So that one block 20 with the reservoir block, that was determined through discussions with the township, their engineering consultant and K-Smart Associates. And we believe this is a good solution to ensure that there is adequate fire service available rather than each lot having their own individual fire reservoir. As I mentioned before, there is still considerable interest in this development. There are a number of potential lot purchasers that I know are working on their development plans for the lots once this gets approved. We are looking forward to the public meeting at the county next month and proceeding as quickly as possible towards registration. The land surveyor is also working on his final plan based on the work to date. And so we look forward to speaking with the township about potential names for the streets and negotiating the terms and conditions of the agreement. And if you have any questions, I'd be willing to answer them now for you.
Okay, thank you. Does any members of council have questions? Either Melissa or Mr. Jefferson, Jerry?
Yeah, thanks for the presentations. Just one, again, it's great this is finally getting through. And if our public works and our fire are satisfied, I'm sure we're going to deal with the comment from the neighbor at some point. But as in regards to the fire reservoir and Mr. Jefferson, maybe Chief Hunter, will that reservoir be able to be used by the entire our fire department, or is that just specific to this subdivision? Just thinking for future use.
Through you, Mayor Agates, the design for the firefighting system is that there will be a line from the water supply coming from Milverton into the subdivision with a feeder going into the block where the reservoir is. There will be a pumping station that will pressurize the system, and there will be a parallel water main system on the roads within the subdivision that will have fire hydrants. So there will be fire hydrants available on all the streets in the subdivision that the fire department could access.
Okay, Daryl, you have a question?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Agates. Yeah, it's nice seeing this moving forward for sure. Everything takes time. It's a big development. It's nice that this is going forward for sure. There's a lot of excitement for it. So thanks for everybody. It's a huge amount of work. I am sure. Two things right off the hop. We cleared up the farming community to the west. So they were already triggered into a closer MDS with existing buildings. Can you help me there, Melissa? You talked on it. I'm familiar with it. I just want to get that correct.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Herlick. So the proponent next door, essentially the farm property to the west, they applied, I believe, in 2014 to reduce that MDS setback. At the time, they were proposing an expansion. So as a result of that proposed expansion, they needed to demonstrate that the calculations work. So the requirement was 204 meters, and the committee granted the reduction or the variance down to 104 meters. Because the land directly across the road is a high occupancy building, or it was deemed that it's a high occupancy building for the purposes of MDS, that becomes automatically a sensitive land use. And they're required double the amount, double the length essentially. But that was reduced to 104 meters. So their future expansions are going to be impacted by that sensitive land use primarily, rather than this industrial development.
Okay, great. And the second component, Jerry touched on it as well. I had the fire suppression system, and it was nice. We talked about that there. Just a quick idea. Who exactly dictates who can and can't pull out of that? Okay, it's in that subdivision. If we needed to pull out of that, we can. And is it a combination of fire code and the building permit, or is it the fire marshals of Ontario dictate how much flow and how much capacity has to be there? Maybe Bill could help me with that. I'm just curious. We heard to satisfy the comments, just to satisfy. I'm sure there's code on it. Just curious how that works, how the fire department and the building department, they work hand in hand in that.
Yes,
Go ahead.
Councillor Hurlick. There's calculations on minimum fire flow required depending on building stock and use and things like that. So the calculation is used to come up with how many liters per minute we would require to fight a fire in those types of buildings. So that was all taken into consideration for the design of the reservoir. And as far as taking water from the reservoir, once that the municipality assumes the subdivision, they would assume that reservoir, and it would be no different than us taking water from the hydrants right in the village of Milverton.
Okay, any other questions, Jeremy?
Well, I guess everybody already asked all my questions. They're mostly answered here now. Thanks, Daryl and Jerry. Am I to, I believe there's to be a berm on the west side with some trees on top. Maybe that gets addressed under site plan. Planner Gassick, can you confirm that? Like when that sort of buffer would be along the west side between the farm and the subdivision? You are muted.
My apologies. My apologies. So any site plan requirements, such as like berming, landscaping, specific details, including the protections to the drain branch, all that will be addressed at the site plan stage. And there are numerous other requirements kind of stemming primarily from that EIS study, which calls for like certain measures during construction, pre-construction, during construction, after construction. So all those will also be incorporated into the site plan agreements, various site plan agreements, as these lots become popular. Okay, I apologize again. As these lots become populated, we'll make sure that all these site plan matters, such as, protections and screening is addressed at that stage.
Okay, so it's pretty much, just to mitigate the impact on the neighboring farm. So even when construction is undergoing, sort of making sure that road stays open so that equipment can get up and down the line 61, getting that berm constructed, things like that. But if that's addressed at a later date, that's fine, as long as it's being acknowledged tonight. The other item, I had a question about the Milverton settlement
Sorry,
area.
if I may jump in, Councilor Matheson, we can add that as a recommendation to be included. The council can tonight add that as a recommendation to be included, like in the future development standards or the future subdivision agreement, that is your preference to buffer this subdivision from the neighboring property to the west.
Mr. Jefferson has his
Mr.
hand up. Maybe he's got an answer for me.
Yes, I'd like to, if we could, Mr. Jefferson, would you want to answer that too?
Yes, through you, Mayor Agate. The request for a berm did come from Stilett Farms very early on in the process. So when our engineers were doing the preliminary lot grading for the overall development, they did include the design of that berm from day one. So their overall lot grading calculations, cut and fill calculations have included that in the detailed engineering drawings. And as Ms. Glassick has said, once the site plans come forward, individual lots will have to show that berm. There's going to be a swale along that side as well for drainage purposes, and any landscaping will be shown on the site plans as well. So you could add a condition that it be included, but I think the short version is that the overall engineering plans are to be prepared to the satisfaction of the township, and township staff can make sure that the berm is provided to a size and design that is appropriate.
Okay, thanks. I'm comfortable with that answer. My last question was about this Milverton settlement area. is there a requirement to kind of encapsulate this subdivision into the Milverton settlement area after the fact, since it's being serviced by the Milverton system? And will that impact any of the MDS, things like that for the neighboring farm if in the future it is brought in under the sort of Milverton settlement area?
Thank you, Councilman Matheson. I believe the plan is to incorporate the subdivision into the future enlarged settlement areas. And this is one of the candidate sites. I think there are several categories and several candidates in the vicinity of Milverton. I believe this one is in the category that will very likely be included. When that happens, MDS, because this becomes like a settlement area essentially, so MDS will no longer be applicable. Right, it'll be the farmland to the west, meaning the uses within the settlement area. But the farm lot to the west, they'll still be restricted by the sensitive land use rather than this expansion. So the most limiting factor for them, and that one is the closest to the subdivision. The rest are much farther away. But this one is primarily impacted by the sensitive land use directly to the north.
So if it changes to Milverton settlement area, it won't impact Stillette Farm's ability to expand any more than what's actually happening.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Andrew?
Thank you, Mayor Riggets. Just planning, thank you for the overview and on these large reports and the walkthrough. That's very, very helpful. I'm just wondering about the public comments in Appendix F. Does planning feel that they've been addressed?
Councilor McAlpine, I believe so. That is the primary concern of the neighboring property was their kind of future expansion plans. They already expanded once, and I have to correct myself. They expanded not in 2014, but in 2017. I spoke to the gentleman. He also sent the email, and I did speak to the gentleman, and their primary concern is again that future expansion potential, but that has already been taken care of because of the minor variance that was granted.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing no other questions, we do have a motion. Now, with your indulgence, there are 23 conditions. And rather than me read all 23, as long as council is good with all the conditions, I'll just add at the end of the motion that we include the 23 conditions to the motion. Okay, as circulated. So the motion is the Council of the Township of Perth East receives a report prepared by the planner dated September 20, 2022, entitled Draft Plan of Subdivision PE 21-01 by Perkon Developments, Inc., care of Anthony Rupp, affecting lands described as Concession 2, Part Lot 6, Mornington Ward, Township of Perth East, 6332 Road 131 for information. And that the Council of the Township of Perth East recommend to County Council that the application for draft plan of subdivision number PE 21-01 by Perkon Developments, Inc., care of Anthony Rupp, affecting lands described as Concession 2, Part Lot 6, Mornington Ward, Township of Perth East, 6332 Perth Road 131, be approved subject to the following conditions. And the 23 conditions are listed in our package. So those are the conditions that council would approve. So do we have a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Jerry. Second by Jeremy. Is there any more comments or questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, thanks, Melissa, and thank you, Mr. Jefferson. So now we are going to move on to our other reports. We have no report from the CAO. From the clerk, we have the Joint Compliance Audit Committee. So Eric, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, so the report council sees in front of you is a statutory requirement in the Municipal Elections Act. So we must establish a compliance audit committee for the filing of financial statements for the 2022 municipal election. So the local area clerks within Perth County and the town of St. Mary's and city of Stratford are once again doing a joint compliance audit committee. And we need to have this committee have at least at minimum 4 members by October 1st. So we received 4 applications, and we are asking for council to appoint the 4 names in the bylaw to the joint compliance audit committee. If there's any questions, I'm happy to help.
Any questions for Eric? Seeing none, we do have a motion that the Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report prepared by the acting municipal clerk entitled 2022-2026 Joint Compliance Audit Committee dated September 20, 2022 for information, and that council give 3 readings to bylaw 48-2022, being a bylaw to appoint members to the Joint Compliance Audit Committee for the 2022-2026 term of council under the Municipal Elections Act. Moved by Andrew, second by Amanda. Is there any more comments or questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, thanks, Eric. We have nothing for finance. We have nothing for public works and parks. We have nothing for building and bylaw enforcement. We have nothing for recreation and community services. We do have the report for fire on the fire reservoir in Rostock. So Bill, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Mayor and Council. My report tonight deals with the replacement of the underground reservoir that's located in Rostock. As Council will see in the report, the tank collapsed earlier this year during a fire and needs to be replaced. Staff has investigated several different replacement options for the tank, putting particular attention to the design so that we don't run into the same problem that we currently have now or in the future. Staff is confident that we can replace this tank with a suitable tank for the $35,000 to $40,000 range, and that would certainly include the removal of the old tank, site preparation, installation of the new tank, and then returning the site to its pre-construction state. Also, part of this report is staff would like to prepare a multi-year plan in regards to the remaining older underground reservoirs and how we can put together a schedule to replace them over the next few years. And I'll gladly try and answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Any questions on the report? Amanda?
Not a question, just a comment. Just want to thank you for the report. This is something that I have heard from in area ratepayers. This is something that they're concerned of, and I've reassured them that this was being brought forward tonight. So I just want to thank you for putting that together, but no further questions from me.
Okay, Andrew, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief Hunter, just curious, it's nothing earth shattering, just, so what type of, is there PMs done on these? Is there any testing, like, obviously it's not a pressure vessel, but like these event checked and stuff like that? I'm just curious, kind of going forward to keep our new ones in good condition. What's typically done on these, like camera, or just curious if you'd have time to answer that. Thank you.
Yes, Councilor McAlpine, we don't do like a camera inspection. We go out to each of the underground tanks once a year and draft water from the tank. So basically, we just confirm that we are able to take water from the tank, we refill it, and we leave it till the next year. The problem, as you can see in my report, the problem that we identified was we were drawing water quicker than the vent could replace the air, which created a negative pressure and obviously caused the tank to collapse. The new tanks are designed with a much larger vent, and the connections for the fire trucks are exactly what we have on the trucks now. So we're not trying to use adapters or different things like that. We're drawing water from the tank at the rate that it was designed. So don't anticipate any future issues with it. We would certainly continue our annual test and visual. I can chat with Public Works about a camera inspection. It might not be a bad idea, but it hasn't been done up till this date.
No, thank you, Chief. I really appreciate the comments. Obviously, you know, be running around checking tanks, you know, birds nest in the vent, or you never know what's going to crawl in there, right? So this is a suggestion, maybe. Thank you.
Okay, Daryl, did you have a question?
Nope, I had the same thing. I know how tanks can collapse, vacuum tanks on farms. I've seen a few suck in and it's interesting. No, it's just, yeah, that it couldn't keep up and you were pulling heavy. Almost sounds like a design flaw, right or wrong. It happens and you get plagued with it 30 years down the road. So, okay, thanks.
Okay, anyone else with questions? If not, we do have a motion that the Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report entitled Fire Reservoir, Rostock, dated September 20, 2022, as prepared by the Fire Chief Bill Hunter for information, and that council authorize the replacement of the Rostock underground fire reservoir immediately with the cost of the project not to exceed $35,000 plus applicable HST, and that the fire chief prepare a multi-year plan to replace the remaining identified underground fire reservoirs for the 2023 budget process. We need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Amanda, second by Andrew. Any more comments or questions? All in favor? Carried.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Okay, now we're moving to correspondence. We do have one item and it's from Jeremy Matheson, and it's regarding the Christmas on Main Street road closure for December, I believe. Is there, what would council wish to do with this? Jeremy?
Just a quick comment on this is that, sorry about my grammar in the letter. A couple of places I created it kind of hastily and I read it again and there's a couple of errors. So I'm sorry about that. The 4:45 start time is requested to be amended to 4:30 actually. So instead of 4:40 time, it would be road closure at 4:40. And it would be ending sooner than Moonlight Madness generally does because it'll get darker sooner at that time of year. So that's all. Thanks. If anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer them as well.
So say that again. You wanted 4:30 to start?
Yeah, the letter should say 4:30 rather than 4:45.
Okay, thanks, Jeremy.
Should also say forwarded to the township in the second last paragraph. Missed a couple of letters there. Whoever that guy is.
Anyone with questions? If not, we do have a motion. The Council of the Township of Perth East received the correspondence from Jeremy Matheson, President, Milverton Business Association, dated September 14, 2022, regarding the Christmas on Main event road closure request for information, and that council approve the road closure from George Street through downtown to Grove Street in Milverton, starting at 4:30 until 9 p.m. in order to accommodate the Christmas on Main event, which is held, we don't have a date on here, it's November 18th, 2022, and that the event organizers provide sufficient volunteers necessary to control detoured and rerouted traffic, and that the Corporation of the Township of Perth East be listed as an additional insured, but only with respect to their interest in the operation of the named insured. We have a mover and a seconder for that. moved by Hugh, second by Amanda. Any more comments or questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, now we're going to move on to council reports. Is there any reports anyone would like to give since our last meeting? Jeremy?
I'll give a brief report. It's not really a committee that I'm on, but on the weekend, my kids participated in the roll-a-thon that was held to fundraise for the All Wheels Park in Milverton. The committee raised about $3,400 on that 3 or 4 hour period. It was a pretty fun time. Lots of participants zipping around the new trail down there. Lots of really nice comments about the pavilion as well. So I'm told as of now, the group's over $40,000 fundraised. So they're making some headway, and they're still looking to apply for a number of grants and things like that too, and come to the community. So I think they're doing quite well.
Thanks, Jeremy. Anyone else with any reports? If not, we have a motion that the verbal reports by members of council from Jeremy Matheson be received for information. We have a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Amanda. Second by Jerry. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we do have 3 bylaws that are going to be read a first, second, third, and final time. We have, and I'll read just the motion, bylaw number 47, 2022, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 32-2020, being a bylaw to designate a site plan control area. The second bylaw is number 48, 2022, being a bylaw to appoint members to the Joint Compliance Audit Committee for the 2022-2026 term of council under the Municipal Elections Act. And the third one is bylaw number 108-2022, being a bylaw to consolidate municipal drain maintenance completed in 2015 to 2021. And that the bylaws listed above be read a first, second, third, and final time. We need a mover and a second for that. Moved by Amanda, second by Hugh. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we do have a need for a closed session. So with your permission, we'll just move the that to after announcements. So do we have any notice of motions? Any new business? Any announcements? Oh, sorry, Hugh.
With council's indulgence, I would ask that we send a letter to the OPP. We had the four-wheelers do a lot of damage on our trail and stuff like that. The people that live in the farms to the east of the trail, the four-wheelers were going into their bushes and making a bit of a mess. And then they were coming out and they were going in the fields, destroying crop. So if we could just send a letter of concern to the OPP, I'd very much appreciate it.
And you want the OPP to investigate, or what do you want the OPP to do?
Just that we're just that we have a concern. I think they somebody did phone them. The OPP were to get back to them, but I'm not sure if they've got back to them yet. But just of our concern.
Okay, so you're moving that?
Yes, please.
Yep, okay. Moved by Hugh. Do we have a seconder? Amanda? Do we have any comments or questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, do we have any other new business? No? Okay, any announcements? No? Okay, so we do have a motion that the regular meeting of council of the Township of Perth East be temporarily adjourned at 8:09 to permit the holding of a meeting in closed session for the purpose of Exceptions pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees regarding a human resource matter. We need a mover and a seconder to go into closed, moved by Amanda, second by Hugh. All in favor? Carried. Just thanks everyone else. Have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you all later. So if council could log into their other Zoom, that would be appreciated. Good night, everyone.
Okay, and my screen still. Fellows.
Okay, we have a motion that the Council of the Township of Perth East rise from the closed session and reconvene to regular session at 8:32. My internet's telling me I'm unstable again. Moved by Hugh. Second by Jerry. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we have bylaw 49/2022 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council of the Township of Perth East at its regular meeting held on September 20th, 2022, be read a first, second, and third time. Moved by Jeremy, second by Amanda. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, and that the meeting of the council be adjourned at 8:33. Moved by Andrew. Second by Daryl. All those in favor? Carried. Great, thanks to everyone.